Thank you for watching the Barefoot Lawyer Reports, and we hope these videos will be a valuable resource in understanding our world today. In this video, I'd like to walk through a number of terms that Guangcheng Chen, the Barefoot Lawyer, will use throughout his videos. These terms may be unfamiliar to an American audience, since they describe phenomena appropriate to those who live in an authoritarian regime. The first of which is the firewall. This is the internet filter that the Chinese Communist Party has placed on the whole of the internet for those users in China. It is like an internet Berlin Wall. It is a wide-ranging system of internet censorship technology controlled by the CCP that prevents internet users in China from accessing outside information and prevents outsiders from accessing information inside of China. The second is party-state structure. This system of political organization exists in China, whereby the Chinese Communist Party controls every aspect of the government as well as non-government institutions, and where each level of government is beholden to a party organization of the same level. So, while we often hear of the Chinese Communist Party, it is often synonymous with the Chinese Communist state. Number 3, National Security Forces. This is the Chinese Communist equivalent of the KGB, a police force acting at the behest of the Chinese Communist Party, purportedly to maintain domestic security, but in reality, to maintain CCP power. The fourth is a black jail. This is an extrajudicial detention center. Really, it can be any location, from hotel rooms, police stations, apartments, etc., that can be turned into so-called black jails on an ad hoc basis without judicial or other official review for purposes of detention, torture, and coercion of those the CCP deems threatening to its power. The fifth is netizens. A netizen is simply a person who frequently expresses online opinions, especially in pursuit of defense of social and political justice. They are net citizens. A petitioner is a person who seeks justice for unresolved wrongs, usually involving government or party officials. Petitioners often appeal to government authorities, beginning at local levels, to resolve their claims, traveling to higher levels of authority if their cases are not resolved. Often the central authorities send petitioners back to the local authorities to address the issue at the point of origin in an endless cycle. Many petitioners are harassed, beaten, detained, or sent to mental institutions. Before coming to the United States, Guangcheng's work in China was helping petitioners receive the equal rule of law, especially in rural China. A returned petitioner is a petitioner often forcefully returned home by their local officials who act on the orders of central authorities to send those petitioners away without resolving their cases. Forced demolition. This term refers to the unlawful destruction of property by corrupt officials who take over desired property for personal gain, with no legal process and often with little or no compensation. Property owners who resist are at risk of being buried alive when bulldozers push over their homes. Land takeover. If an official likes your land, they can buy it. They can use whatever process they can to force one to sell their land, no matter how low the price, including tactics such as destroying crops or one's house in order to intimidate one to sell the land. Implication by association. The CCP sees anyone connected to a political enemy of any stature as implicated in the purported wrongdoing. Individuals, such as family, friends, or neighbors, thus implicated in the so-called crimes of others, can be harassed, detained, or tortured. Guangcheng himself experienced the suffering of his family and friends being brutally tortured for his own work in China. Televised confession, or self-confession. When an individual is illegally detained by the CCP will often force the individual to make a video or written acknowledgement of crimes fabricated by the authorities to validate the CCP's detention of the individual. The so-called confession is then broadcast widely over state-sponsored media to back up the CCP's actions. To be declared insane. In China, the CCP has a practice of forcing mental illness diagnoses on its critics, often resulting in the individual being held long-term in mental institutions against his or her will, with no medical basis. This often comes with forced ingestion of medications, resulting in serious health debilitation. Sack crime. When authorities confront an individual or individuals who are acting in the way the CCP deems unsightly, unruly, or politically out of bounds, officials will sometimes accuse the individuals of any crime they can think of as a rationale for detention or restraint. In other words, pulling any useful crime out of a sack. Sack crimes are stock crimes that are just simply placed on those the CCP wants to get off their hands. Controlling at the border. The CCP can put anyone on a blacklist and prevent individuals from leaving the country without any official or judicial procedure. An individual might not know about such a list until arriving at the airport and having a passport confiscated. And lastly, forced to be represented by. The CCP does not allow free elections. Hence, the idea is that people are forced to be represented by the CCP and the Chinese government. The CCP doesn't ask for the approval of the people, but forces their representation on the people. As we can see from simply a catalog of these terms and their definitions, life under an authoritarian regime is vastly different from that which we experience. We hope these words are helpful in understanding Guangcheng's message, which he has labored greatly to explain in English to an English-speaking audience. He is grateful to those who have offered a friendly hand and wish to fight for justice throughout the world.